y'all. I don't mean to be pouring in y'all face like this. This is the heavy day. And I'm famished. All I didn't have, well, I had a smoothie for breakfast. And then I had like half a VLT. And a VLT is a vegan BLT. So it's vegan bacon with lettuce, tomato, and some sourdough bread, and a cup of tea. That's all I had all day. And when it got around this time, I was famished. And the last time my wife went shopping, I didn't go with her, and she don't know how to shop. All she gets is like onions and sweet potatoes and whole grains and brown rice and shit. She don't ever buy no like cookies or other food like peanut butter cups and good shit. So there wasn't even anything for me to like grab and come. Everything in there needs to be cut, steamed, prepared, presented. Everything in the kitchen. So there's basically nothing to eat. And long story short, I literally dug in the bottom and the back of this cabinet and found like this jar. My wife used to do this for my sons and found this jar of stale ass. It's probably been in there a year or two. But I found it in the back of the bottom cabinet behind some cereal boxes. And I'm like, oh, I can just grab this. So I don't have to sit here trembling, and black it out. So, I'm trying to get my blood sugar back up. So if I say some things I didn't have to say, you'll know it's because my body hasn't metabolized the peanut butter, stale ass peanut butter pretzel things. But anyway, that's my trouble. Oh, I got some more hard times. Since we family, we people, we care about each other. Somebody broke in my car. Someone broke into my car. Now I have something to say about that. And I blame myself somewhat. But, Southside Chicago has it's very rewarding to live in a predominantly historically black neighborhood. There's a lot of rewards, but there are some costs as well. And the majority of what was taken from the car, believe it or not, are baby wipes and diapers. And I have two things to say. Number one, if you needed those baby wipes and diapers that were stolen from the car, then you have my blessing, you have my forgiveness, and, use in good health. Seriously, if that's something you needed and you're using those for purposes for which they were manufactured, and there's some baby getting benefit that otherwise wouldn't have those diaper and wipes, then more power to you. But on the other hand, if no baby gets access to that, if you took some baby necessities and no baby is getting access, boy, whatever deities or supernatural forces you believe in, when they catch up with you, the beating you will receive. Let me tell you something. So those are the two things. So I'd like to imagine that I don't even have to get upset about the diapers and baby wipes and some little booties and just little baby stuff that was taken from the car. They also took my sunglasses, but I ain't even tripping. Like I said, if you went in and did what you had to do and you came up on some baby wipes and diapers for a baby in need, I hold nothing against you. Seriously, I mean that sincerely. Don't do that shit again, because I got a baby that needs that shit too. Don't do that shit again. But for this time, man, you are absolved. The ancestors and I forgive you. But if you on some skeezer shit, and if them baby wipes and diapers don't make it to a baby, you the scum of the earth. Right. Yeah. If you doing that on some, but they're not big enough. The people that do that kind of stuff prefer adult sized diapers. So I don't think it's no Diddy stuff. But that's all I have to say. And I would say not having no junk food to gobble before the live, before the discussion, and getting gaffled, getting ganked. Man, we used to come up with the best slang back in the day. So if I come on here and say, boy, your boy got gaffled, your boy got ganked, Most of y'all wouldn't know what I was talking about. Now what would say, I don't even know what the modern word for getting juked, getting tooken. I don't even know what the slang is. Oh crap, Q isn't here. Let me stop, because Q is like the community militia all in one, and I ain't trying to put nobody on blast. But yeah, Q, in our hood, somebody's breaking in cars around here. So I'll just tell you that. What's up, bro? Somebody breaking in cars. I don't want you to go. Like I said, the person, I just have told myself I have forgiven them. And so we've moved on, but I don't want Q to take to the streets so he don't mess around. Anyway, first thing I want to talk about is yet again in Colorado, there was a bureau of, because every city has, like, if you live in Kansas, there's literally a Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Every state has like a local Bureau of Investigations or a state Bureau of Investigation. And this is really important in areas that have like very small police departments, because you'll have a major police department like NYPD, Chicago, LAPD, that have billions of dollars at their disposal. Sometimes a quarter or more of the entire budget can be spent on policing us in this free country where we're born free. But in states that have a lot of small rural towns and dispersed populations, the local Bureau of Investigations is very important, because when they're doing forensic or DNA mapping, they have to send that off. They don't have in-house scientists and snitching ass scientists. So anyway, you have in Colorado, which has happened more than once, where a scientist was found tampering with DNA. And this is peculiar because there was this Indian woman a few years back who was caught doing this. And whenever they catch a scientist doing this, they'll have this big trial. And basically, she was forging DNA, and everything she did was to help the police to secure prosecutions and convictions. You never hear about, forensic scientists or forensic labs, investigation labs that are tampering with evidence in order to exonerate convicted or prosecuted people. And it always is just like this one woman that's standing trial for manipulating, but she gave that faulty evidence to investigators. She gave it to prosecutors, and she gave it to the whole network of investigative, prosecutorial, and even those who incarcerated those individuals. And whenever you have, everybody is click. I remember I was riding in my homie's car, and we was playing Straight Outta Compton, and Fuck the Police was playing. And he reached over and turned down the volume, and I reached over to turn up the volume. I'm like a freshman in high school, and I'm in my friend's car. He had a Ford Escort. If you remember Ford Escorts, it was all white Ford Escorts, and the plates wasn't right on it. The registration wasn't right. I don't even know if he had insurance. So he was driving past this convenience store / arcade called Town and Country, and there was a cop car parked there, and I saw it. And we was back, and this is back when we used to put house speakers in cars, shit rattling up and down the bump. And he turned down, because it was on Fuck the Police, and I turned it up and I was screaming, fuck the police. And when we got around down the block a little bit, he turned it off and was like, the fuck is wrong with you? He's like, I got this car with messed up plates on it, and the paperwork ain't right on it, and you riding by blasting this song right past a police car with the windows down. And we're in Missouri, Kansas City. Like, what is wrong with you? Are you stupid? And he said this to me. I might have heard this before, but this is where it sticks out mostly for me. He said, the cops are the biggest gang in this country. And I think at that time, I was just comprehending that the cops, I always knew about police brutality and overreach and all the corruption in overall, but I still had this illusion that lawfulness I am a citizen. I have not committed any crime. I'm not engaged in commission of a crime. Boo, boo, boo. So, by and large, I am safe from the police. Right? And it hit that, shout out to Michael, that these are a group of unlawful, homicidal, criminal, bloodthirsty, unregulated, with limited to no oversight individuals who get up every day and go out and look for the opportunity to impose not the law, not justice, but their own will on citizens. And I thought, it's not radical or revolutionary to needlessly provoke the biggest, most violent gang in my city. So anyway, because this is a gang, and we all know, and some of y'all know, that if you are involved in a gang, all the gangsters listening to me, all the people who are gang affiliated, you know that if you are accused of a crime as an individual in the gang, they have, number one, this thing called gang enhancement. That means if you shoplift or commit a minor or major crime and you are identified as an active or known gang member, and you don't have to do anything major to be an active or known gang member, like drive-bys, trafficking in girls or drugs. You could have tattoos. You can be caught in an area that is controlled a gang territory. You can be a male between a certain age, and if you live in a certain neighborhood because of poverty and lack of options or opportunities, or you just want to stay true to the street, like Mobb Deep said, no matter how much loot I get, I'm staying in the projects. You can be identified as a gang member. You don't even have to be a member of a gang to be identified as a gang member. The juggalos, if you are a weirdo juggalo, Insane Clown Posse fan, or a Tech 9 fan, then you commit a minor crime, you get a gang enhancement, and it goes on. And if you are seen to coordinate with one or more other members of this identified gang, then you are not only getting gang enhancement, you can be brought up on RICO charges. Now, I don't understand why the fuck when a police officer or a forensic scientist who works for the Bureau of Investigations, for the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, is caught to be doing crime and corruption, that they don't, number one, have, because they do have this rhetoric about the public trust. If you are in a position of authority and you betray the public trust, you can be brought up on additional charges, or judges have been known to give stricter or harsher or maximum sentences to people who betray the public trust. But that's for teachers, like a teacher that gets involved with the student, or a civil servant that embezzles crime, or if there's some type of local bureaucrat that uses city resources, like cost the local city snow removal to remove snow of their own driveway using city resources. And you'll see them lecturing and waving the fingers like, you were given public trust. You've been entrusted with this authority and position of influence, and therefore we're going to make an example out of you. Holler at the former mayor, Blagojevich of the governor of Illinois. They accused him of trying to sell Obama's Senate seat and negotiate for Obama's Senate seat. And that was the rhetoric around, you have betrayed the public trust. As if I ain't got no, now there's no, let me tell you, every politician in the United States, even the ones I have voted for, I don't trust you, can't trust you, so you can't betray my trust. But I guess there are some people who do this cosplay of democracy in this country. But all that aside, I don't freaking understand, because people are asking me about the policies that I have and policies I advocate for. If a public official, and forget not public, because like I said, some public officials, especially non-law enforcement public officials, do some dirt. And the first thing they do when they sit you down and say, listen, give us some more names, give us some more heads to roll, give us somebody, a superior, a higher up person. But there's no way for a technician to be involved in corrupt forging of evidence and manipulation of evidence, and the prosecutor and the investigative detective and the police arresting officers who are usually the first people on the scene and collect the evidence to give over to the detective. This should be a fucking RICO case. And every time a cop does something, it should be looked at as RICO. There was a cop who murdered a boy in this city. And there were more than a dozen other cops who watched them shoot a young man in the back, y'all know, 16 shots, and then reload his gun and empty it twice. And it took a freedom of information. It took a freedom of information request to get that evidence because not one cop snitched. That's why all these thugs, these gangsters out here, ain't nobody more gangster. Even like the mafia, La Cosa Nostra, and all these other criminal agencies. I haven't seen one that has a better that has a tighter operation than the thin blue line, than the blue wall. They say there's a blue wall of signs. So the thin blue line, you see these people with American flags that's black and white with one of the stripes are blue, because the police, this goes into what we're talking about. The police believe that they are the only thing holding society back from collapse and absolute chaos. I noticed I didn't say anarchy, because the police maintain a higher unjust hierarchy. So they believe that if what they do is justified because the consequences of their absence or their failure to act is infinitely outweighs any crimes they could commit. But you have this, and her name, I don't even want to say her name because my favorite auntie. I got two favorite aunties, but one's a great auntie and others an auntie. So I get to say this is my favorite auntie, and I have a favorite great auntie before that one. So I have my favorite auntie. It has the same first name as her, and it's Yvonne Woods. And so Yvonne Woods, this name should be ringing out. It should be hashtag. This woman has done more damage than 1,000 rogue cops. Because the cop got to get out of bed, get in, put on his uniform, strap up his weapons, put on all his gear, put on all that dark gear to make him feel like he's melanated, put on all that and powerful, put on them black boots and that vest, make him feel bulky and dark and strong, and got to come to your door, got to come to your block, got to come up on you, got to pull over your car. He got to touch you. He got to get there physically. But this woman can take your life and upend and disrupt your family sitting at a desk with a microscope, where they say the pen is more powerful than the billy club. And there are prosecutors who run and for office, and not just prosecutor, but they go to Congress. They become mayors. They become comptrollers. They get in these positions of higher authority, and the first thing they tout is their conviction rate. And a high percentage of their conviction rate is based on corrupt and locking up innocent people. Or also locking up, but what is I also consider locking up an innocent person is when you overcharge someone in order to intimidate them into pleading down. When someone commits a crime and you say, well, it's a misdemeanor, but we're going to make it a felony. Or we're going to combine these 3 misdemeanors equal a felony. And so they were like, damn. So if you take this to trial, if you plead your innocence, you're looking at 15 years. But if you plead out and plead guilty, I'll charge you with a lesser crime. How the fuck can a prosecutor change up the crime you did? I commit assault, but I'm going to knock it down to disorderly conduct if you pay this fine and agree to. How the fuck do you change the crime I did? But I ain't getting into that. All I'm saying is Yvonne Woods, we should know her name. She's not the first. She won't be the last. Stop that CSI and those, what's that show? Forensic Files. This whole DNA is absolute, is bullshit. The forensic science is a fallacy. Criminal forensic science is not true science. The first thing that makes it illegitimate is that forensic scientists go into it trying to reach a conclusion, where science is supposed to be open-ended. You're not supposed to have a predetermined. You can have a hypothesis, you can have an idea or speculation of how things play out, but when the science is employed, whatever the results tell you is what you put out. And they got us thinking, oh, they got your DNA. That's it. Well, you do something. It is not absolute. So anyway, I think we need to pay attention to that, because there's so many. By the time they got all these propaganda shows and documentaries and TV series that are just touting the power of DNA evidence and forensic science and to keeping crime and blah, 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 that's bullshit. The science is not there to punish the guilty. The pseudoscience of forensics. And I should probably do a whole show on that. It just rubs me the wrong way. The cat I grew up in, one of my play cousins did 25 years and was exonerated, lost 25 years of his life. His children grew up and became adults, and he only saw them between glass. I got another homeboy who was in a supermax, locked away and tortured by the system for a nonviolent felony. I got another homeboy who, when he was arrested, he did the crime. And they told him, they were like, listen, why don't you plead out? Because you were high, you were going through it, right, young man? Why don't you plead out to insanity and you can get found not guilty? And so he did it. He was like, wow, this prosecutor cares, this prosecutor, whatever. So he pled. He's like, listen, I wasn't in my right mind. I was in a drug-fueled psychosis. I have a history of mental illness. I've been in and out of institutions since I was a minor. That's the song that said in and out. Oh, that's Ice-T, in and out of institution ever since. But I remember he used to be in this place called Research Psychiatric Center. And when he was locked up in there, we used to try to come in there and visit him, and they wouldn't let minors visit, wouldn't let your friends. They lock up children and then don't let their friends come visit them. It's just weird shit. But anyway, he pled out. And if he had pled guilty for the crime that he did, he was facing 5 years. But because he was found not guilty by reason of insanity and turned over to an institution, he had an indeterminate sentence, and they kept him for 17, almost 20 years. They kept him for 17 years on a 5-year felony. 2.5 to 5 years was the span of time he could do without any extenuating circumstances. And my man was in there 17 years. And the only reason he was in there 17 years is because this was a privately owned facility that was receiving public money according to how many people they had. So if they were to say, well, he's cured, he's got his drug treatment and psych eval, and he can go home. Not only that, the facility was also had contracts with pharmaceutical companies, and they were allowed to use they can't be called inmates. They were called patients, but this was a high security. The people couldn't come and go. And my dude, when I would call him or he would call me, would be like, yeah, they got me taking this stuff in my skin, and they had him taking stuff, and the stuff didn't even have a label, and there was no informed consent. And I went to see him after he got out. And they were saying, oh, he's all this and this and that. And then when they put him out on the street, they don't even give him any type of extra support. Anyway, fuck the police. And it ain't just to fuck the police. It's fuck the police, fuck the prosecutors, fuck the judges, fuck the CEOs, fuck the wardens, fuck the forensic scientist. Fuck the forensic and DNA scientist. So, it's just the amount of abuses. And I worked in a prison infirmary, and it was every day. Fucking war crimes. Abu Ghraib. It was insane to me when everybody was looking at those pictures from Abu Ghraib, and oh man, everybody forgot about it now. But when it came out, everybody's like, "Can you believe this?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I believe it." U.S. prisons are primitive torture chambers. Like I said, there are allied countries with the United States that says, "Listen, we don't send people, we don't extradite people to the United States because the United States tortures and murders inmates. United States violates all of the human rights and afforded to incarcerated people, because there are human rights defined and laid out of your treatment of prisoners of war or incarcerated individuals, the things you can and can't do to them." And the United States said, "I ain't signing that shit. And if you try to step to me, I got nukes." But I digress. All I want to say is Yvonne Wood's name needs to be out there. The abuses of forensic and DNA science, and the fact that whenever they arrest one cop or one scientist, one prosecutor, it should be a RICO case, because one dirty cop could not affect a community unless every other cop either participates or looks the other way. That's how gangs work. And every other coalition, every other group, every other gang, they understand that. But with the police, one bad apple. The police are the only institution that gets the bad apple accusation. And to do crimes on a societal scale like that, it can never be one person. Cannot wreak that much havoc or impose that much abuse on such a large population over such a span of time. But I digress. Tabitha Brown. And you know, Tabitha Brown is a goddamn fool. But I'm glad she pretty much, I said this before. This black business cult, because entrepreneurialism is a cult at this point. Now, let's go to our side. I'm not the biggest fan of Tabitha Brown. I know who she is. I know my wife could tell you more about her. She likes these sisters. She likes to see sisters do well. Academia, entrepreneurial, in the arts. My wife just has this loyalty to other black women for some reason, as if black women should be huddling up together. But she's one of them sister girls. That's who my wife is. So she knows about these sisters out here doing it for themselves and getting ahead. And like I said, in academia and all throughout, she helps black women when she can, and she encourages them from a distance when they do it. So, you know, she had said to me, "You heard what Tabitha Brown said?" And I'm like, "I ain't heard what she said. Who the hell is she? Who the hell is Tabitha Brown? I don't know who she is. Can she rap?" You know? But anyway, Tabitha Brown, a black entrepreneur and actress, apparently. I heard more about Tabitha Brown in the last 2 days than I have in the last 20 years. But yeah, she's social media, art. She does it all. Why her skin lighter now than it was before? Why money make you lighter? That's the only reason I'm not rich. I don't want to lose a little melanin I got. But the more money these, and y'all think I'm crazy. I'm the sanest brother you've ever seen. I'm like Trump, I'm stable. I won't say I'm a genius. I'll leave that to other people, but I'm very stable. Now, this is her in 2023, and I assume she had less money then, right? Call me crazy. And then she busted up Beyonce. She got big money. She drive big cars. Everybody know. And no, that ain't like, why black folks, when they get a little something, they get a little lighter? Do you go to a decade-old picture when she didn't have it like that, before she had products in Target, before she had stacks on stacks on stacks, racks on racks on racks? I mean, Serena, Michael, Peebo Bryson, Name a successful black that didn't seem to, and maybe it's me. Maybe it's the energy. They say that our light, our eyes receive wavelengths. So when you look at something, you're not seeing that thing. You're seeing the light that it reflects. You're seeing the wavelength. So maybe people with money just vibrate different. Maybe it's that. They did The Secret and they put out positive energy to them, so they just look lighter. They just shine more. I don't know. But I'm like, this can't be the Tabitha Brown I'm talking about. Because the Tabitha Brown I'm talking about ain't this dark. I don't know. Y'all always saying something. Because to me, my thought is cosmetics can darken you as much as lighten you. So why they always fall to the lighter side? I don't know. That ain't what we're here to talk about. That ain't what we're here to talk about. Just mad curious. Mad curious. What we're here to talk about is there's some rumblings and grumblings about a boycott of Target because Target, and you know, what's funny is most of these companies announced that they were ending their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs prior to Trump taking office. So look at that. She lighter here. I don't know. When I get rich and I sit in this chair and I start, and I look lighter, I go more beige than brown. And then let me tell you something. I ain't done nothing but make that paper. And so don't start with your acting. Why won't my glasses get clean? I gotta get these downstairs glasses. These are not upstairs glasses. Anyway, Tabitha said, how dare you coloreds? How dare you black peasants? You black serfs? You black laborers? Suggest that you want to boycott Target because Target is canceling all of its DEI programs. How dare you? You need to get your tails out here and support black businesses. And if you boycott Target and Target starts to lose revenues or lose market, then you could hurt a black business indirectly. You could hurt an up-and-coming black entrepreneur in your efforts to hurt this monopolistic monster called Target. Now, she communicated something that, and I appreciate her saying this, because there's two things that I have to tell you that she is clear on. And I'm glad she got, no, I'm not going to say that, but I'm glad she's self-exposed. Because number one, the presence of black businesses collaborating with Target did not in any way motivate Target to do justice by black people. Now, Target didn't fear any level of retribution from the black entrepreneurs, because wouldn't we demand, hey, black entrepreneurs, you better not be doing business with Target if the community is going to boycott Target. But also, black entrepreneurs, when the interest, dignity, pride, power, or values or agenda of black people as a collective come up against the financial interest of black entrepreneurs will take their individual economic interest over our collective liberation every single fucking time. You can't just stop Target, because Target is a part of the American capitalist system. And if you disrupt Target, you could disrupt capitalism. If you could disrupt capitalism, or you could disrupt imperialism and white hegemony. Or you could go the other way. You could start with white hegemony and capitalism and go from top down or bottom up. The bottom line is these white entrepreneurial Negroes, these Negro elites have always demonstrated that their economic interests trump their personal, individual economic interests, trump our collective interest. Now, I don't think, but there's another curious thing. Oh, crap. Sorry. Got an appointment. Now, I don't think that, It's just like there was a boycott on Florida, the whole state. There was a boycott on Georgia for executing innocent people. And Troy Davis, they wanted to boycott Georgia. They wanted to boycott the entire state of Florida after Trayvon's murder. Monique wanted to boycott Netflix. Now, these recent series and spates of boycotts, I mean, some of y'all Uncle Tom, handkerchief head, coon ass Negroes wanted to boycott Adidas for breaking ties with Kanye. So boycotts, I mean, we need to slow down with the boycott calls. Miss Cirrus. Now, I have a lot of personal individual boycotts going. I have so many, I won't even burden y'all with it. Things that I don't buy for myself and I wouldn't buy for anybody else, and companies I don't patronize. I've got so many individuals. You know, there's this one like Sarah Silverman and Amy Schumer. I just saw some advertisement for movies on the streaming service. And I'm like, I'm not watching no, unapologetic Zionist in no kind of movie. I just can't. Now, I'm not out here publicly telling nobody to watch an Amy Schumer movie, or that other, who's that weird ass zebra head? I'm not telling nobody that if you got such bad taste. No, wasn't it? Yeah. What's that motherfucker's name? I hate his guts. I don't even know how he made it this far. Michael Rappaport. I ain't watching nothing he's in. And y'all know I like post-apocalyptic movies. I like the Mad Max movie. And it wasn't as good, but I like the prequel to the Mad Max movie. But if Michael Rappaport was involved in any way in the next Mad Max movie, I'm not watching it, even though I like the movie. And I like the series. Not gonna watch that shit. But that's how I do. And let me tell you something about not watching Zebrahead, because y'all new to this. I've been doing this since the 90s. I never seen Zebrahead. But N'Bushe Wright. I was a big fan, is a big fan of N'Bushe Wright. And I was a bigger fan when I was single. And she's in that movie. And she was in, some movies that I liked it. And anyway, I'm like, I ain't gonna see N'Bushe Wright all up on some scumbag. And now back then it was just because he was a black person who tried to present white. But I can't front though. I did see one movie that Michael Rappaport was in, and that was Higher Learning. Higher Learning is a shitty ass movie, but I had to see him get beat down and murdered, and he got to play the Nazi that he was. That shit was the shit. And what I thought to myself falsely is that movies like Higher Learning, but it also had coon ass race traitor Zionist Ice Cube. I don't know. Nothing means nothing. Nothing from nothing means nothing. But I digress. All that to say is these black entrepreneurs have self-exposed. And it's not even that. You have black entrepreneurial black people that want to rebuild Black Wall Street. And they have this fake fantasy about Black Wall Street. They have this fantasy about black businesses in general in the past. And they were like, we need to go in the past where we had black businesses. We had our own hotels. We had our own movie studios. We had our own. And these Negroes are literally asserting that I'm willing to lose my civil rights and the political gains that we have for entrepreneurial gains. They are literally willing to go back to Jim Crow conditions, or they lament the loss of Jim Crow conditions. So what's a lynching or two? What's a black people, white folks being able to, I think we need to do more to understand the horrors of Jim Crow. I think we let white folks get us into thinking Jim Crow was us sitting in the back of the bus and having a water fountain that we couldn't use. Jim Crow was daily psychological and physical assault on African people to a scale that most Black people living today cannot comprehend. Even though we live under oppression today and we disrespect the civil rights leaders, y'all talk this shit about we not our ancestors, even though we couldn't maintain the concessions that our ancestors won for us under this sick, insane racist system. And when we say we are on our ancestors, because we failed to advance or build on the foundations our ancestors lasted, not because we willing to cut our eyes and talk slick to white folks when they would hold their hat in their hand and bow their head. Y'all really, 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 really need to understand the horrors. You wouldn't give a fuck about no goddamn business. I'm willing to never have another Black-owned hotel before I have my children go back to fucking Jim Crow. Fuck Jim Crow. I am honored my ancestors for bringing Jim Crow to an end. And we got a whole new Jim Crow. And we're not as effective in the modern era if challenging. Shout out to Michelle Alexander before she went to God. She went into God. That was terrible. And to me, the new Jim Crow is a very surface and diluted book. I think the new Jim Crow was written more for white people to comprehend how they're behaving. It was more of an appeal to white people because it didn't go deep and gritty enough. It was easier to digest, like some misplaced policy. But I was fortunate enough to have long relationships with my Jim Crow ancestors. My mother had my sister when she was 16 and had me at 17. Very young parents. And I got to know very well my great-grandmother, my great-grandfathers, their peers and friends, my grandmother, my great-aunt, my great-uncle. And my white people are all from Mississippi. My father's people came up from the South fleeing white vigilantes. There was a dispute over a hog, one hog. And there was this fight about a hog being stolen. And it was a black man of multiple witnesses up against a singular white man and his word. And there was a confrontation and a stabbing. There was no evidence that my great-great-grandfather, he was involved in the dispute, but there was no evidence that he had a weapon or stabbed anybody, but they were going to murder him and mutilate his body and put his body on display. And he couldn't just leave. His whole family had to leave because they had a policy in the South when they wanted to get out and do a lynching that any nigger will do. So if they can't get you, they'll get your mama, they'll get your wife, they'll get your nephew, they'll get your cousin. If the guy is known to shoot craps with you or drink moonshine with you on the porch, they'll get him. And they came a warning. My wife's maternal grandfather was smuggled into Chicago from Mississippi, Macomb, Mississippi, because he had some choice words for a white man, and he said it publicly in earshot of other white men, and the white man he was talking to wasn't even that pressed about it, but the other white man had said, this uppity nigger, we got to make an example, and he was smuggled out, whole family. But we had black businesses. We had us some businesses back then. So for us not to understand or comprehend life for our people under Jim Crow segregation And I'm sure, because most of the stories I have are from the South, from Oklahoma, from Kansas, from Louisiana, because that's where my people are from. But even back in the big cities, even in the big cities, if you, like Malcolm X said, if you south of the Canadian border, you in the South. And then whether you down south or up north. So it pains me to see black folks talk this shit about how great it was back then, because we had businesses. We had a movie studio. We had a car auto manufacturing. And they don't, and they will even know, they understand the history of black people, white folks just rolling up and ripping up deeds. White folks running up into the records office and just ripping up deeds to property. Wholesalers, whether you wholesaling seeds or machine parts, giving rusted out, substandard, overcharging black businesses and underserving them, giving them the most corrupt and rotten supplies. This old pig iron, having them pay for high grade steel and bringing them the lowest grade steel, rusted out, recycled when they play for brand new. Business was not good to be in business back then. So black entrepreneurs show their hand to us, and yet we still elevate them. Black entrepreneurs are no better than black workers. In fact, in most cases, they're worse. And let me tell you something. If you got a job that sustains you, don't be doing no side hustle. Don't come up with no ulcers and hernias and anxiety and disrupting your life trying, because you feel like if you ain't got a side hustle and multiple streams of income. Black entrepreneurs are just as vulnerable as black workers. And I'm not telling you, if you're so inclined to go do some entrepreneurialism, or if you just want to get on a payroll, I'm not saying either of that is bad. But we have had this false elevation of one class over the other. But the vast majority of us are workers and working class. The vast majority of entrepreneurs are workers. I knew this guy that was brilliant when I worked at St. John's Hospital in Queens. And he worked there as an orderly. He's literally cleaning up blood splatter and vomit and emptying waste baskets in the emergency room. And I knew the guy. He had a magnificent business. This is back in the early 90s. And he had a computer service business that was booming. He was in demand. And I asked him, like, dude, why do you work here? You have a computer, a science degree. Why are you here? And he's like, cuz I got a wife and kids. I need insurance. And if I paid for insurance for my family, then that would eat up all of my profits. And I'm like, what profits? I'm like, how many employees do you have? He said, I have one part-time employee. I'm like, so you are the only full-time employee in your business. I said, do you understand you're not making profits? That's earnings. Just because you earned the money through a business does not mean you didn't earn it. Profit is literally defined as unearned income. The money you made while you were sleeping. The money you made after an ancestor died and left you a shit ton of money. That emerald mine. If you're doing the work. You think Elon the Nazi Musk father ever went into a goddamn emerald mine? If you pointed Elon Musk and his father towards an emerald mine and say, hey, go into that emerald mine and bring out some emeralds. They died. They don't know what the first thing about it. They never been. They got a piece of paper from another cracker who colonized the land, and they bought this paper and they exchanged. White folks exchange paper all over the world. Money, paper, deeds, documents, rights, and then they own material resources because they have a paper. Right downtown Chicago, that big ass Trump Tower. Trump ain't laid one fucking piece of tile. He ain't painted one. He ain't installed one light switch in that Trump Tower, but it's his. Jordan, You tell Michael Jordan, hey, there's a shoe factory. Bring me out a shoe. He make all this money from shoes. He don't make fucking shoes. That's profit. So I had to explain to this guy, you're a business owner. You're not an entrepreneur. You are earning your income. You are not generating profit. Generating profit is when you have other people, you're not even profiting from your employees' work. Because you work more than them. And I know I've owned a business where my wife and I were the first people to go in and the last people to go out. And say, oh, yeah, I got it. But I get to go to a cocktail party and talk about my business. And if shutting down my business helps the Black community collective, then shut the motherfucker down. The fuck? I don't hear from nobody all day. And then as soon as I go on the air, my phone starts blowing up. Weirdos. I digress. So people are reading this thing the wrong way. I think we're going a little boycott crazy, but I guess if we're going to spam something, we're going to overdo something, I guess we're doing the right thing the wrong way. And I guess there is some merit to at least, again, I said on Friday with Geeky, I said, sin is not what you do, but the spirit in which you do it. I appreciate the spirit. I don't know where this boycott thing is going to go or where it's coming, but I understand it. But aside from that, whether you intend or are in a position or have the capacity to boycott or not, the fact that these Black entrepreneurs saying, you niggas sit down because you could hurt my bottom line, and this has been done every single fucking time, and the fact that we have to preserve, what the fuck is the point of Black business? The Black businesses have not defended or protected us. Black business and Black entrepreneurs has benefited from our collective action, but have these businesses collectively benefited us? And I don't mean no goddamn turkeys on Thanksgiving. I don't mean a swing set in an impoverished neighborhood. What I mean is developing a Black liberatory agenda and giving the necessary resources and talents to advance that agenda. I mean, have they thwarted, have they identified and exposed any insidious agendas against our communities and put forth the resources to undermine, reverse, or thwart those agendas? I don't fucking mean charity, because if y'all gonna celebrate charity from Black entrepreneurs, then you got to get out here and celebrate these Sister Teresa Catholic charities and all these other fucking charitable, or the Kellogg Foundation and Melinda Gates. Charity can come from anywhere, but liberation can only come for us. So we don't need charity from wealthy Blacks. We need liberation. We need positive contribution to our just liberatory actions. And if you ain't doing that, fuck you and fuck your Black business. And I have one more thing to say. And then we're going to talk about absolute power and pathological delusion. Umar, a few weeks ago, went to Ghana and got his dual citizenship, and everybody made a big spectacle. Ooh, Umar goes to Ghana. Umar got dual citizenship. They calling us home. And Umar posted all these announcements. Ooh, Umar got dual citizenship in the motherland. And he gave a speech and talking about returning home. Whoop, 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 whoop. And now he's a citizen of Ghana. And he's a weirdo. Dude is weird as hell. And it was, and like, Umar's doing what Umar does. I can't be mad at Umar for continuing to be Umar, because Umaring is what I expect from him. In fact, I thought to myself, I'll only talk about Umar if he engages in behavior that are inconsistent with Umar. And all the bad things I have to say about Umar is he's been consistent. Now, I know he kind of switched up because he's opportunistic. So he has switched up on y'all a few times. Oh, my computer freezing. Shit. My computer's freezing, and I don't know why. Can y'all still hear and see me? Anyway, this is him in Ghana giving speeches and stuff. And anyway, all that to say is I just mentioned, yeah, that dual citizenship. I just have to tell, because a lot of black people are like, yeah, we should be returning home. And now that Trump is a citizen, is president, a lot of black people are starting to talk about leaving America, absconding from America, as if Trump's presidency is not an American issue. It is a planetary issue. The United States is a global empire. So I have no problem with an African person saying, I'm going to move to this place or that place to have a better vantage point and a better platform or a better environment for which to work. But there is no sanctuary. There is no escape. That's to say is, don't you know that Ghana gives dual citizenship to white people, to East Indians, to Asians? That anybody, you could go to the website right now and they give you a list of requirements. You can go to the embassy in Ghana and they will give you the list of things that you need, and you pay a $200 fee. Oh, goddamn, it went up. Sorry, it went up. I said $200. Don't go down there. You got to get $250. You pay a $250 fee, and if you don't have any major convictions and you pay it to the embassy and you just fill out some paperwork, I don't understand why people are so acting like this is some type of hostile action against white supremacy or having a dual citizenship in Ghana. And most of the people that are getting these dual citizenships are going there to conduct business, and they're going there to conduct business for two reasons. Labor standards are lower, so you can exploit the workers. The resource regulations and limitations are weaker. Most Ghanaian dual citizenships, even the black people, is an exploitative colonial relationship. Black people say, hey, I retired. I'm getting $125,000 a year for my retirement. I'm going to go and join the African bourgeoisie. And they go there and get house servants, and they build large homes on the beach, and they have drivers, and they live a life of luxury. And it's because Ghana, like all African countries, are under neo-colonial repression, economic repression. The World Bank and IMF have them under very strict structural adjustment programs. So if you have any conduit to Western currency, European or Western US currency, you can go there and take advantage of the repression. It's no different than me getting in a truck tomorrow, and I can get in my car tomorrow and drive to the west side. And when I get to the west side, there's this Home Depot. Don't go to the Home Depot on Roosevelt because the police run them from there. But if you go to the west side Home Depot, go across the highway, and there are men out there who are willing to do dangerous labor in the cold with no equipment. They are very skilled, and they will do anything from roofing to painting to hanging bookshelves, whatever you need them to do. And you can pay them next to nothing. Or you could even take them, have them do the work, and then drive them away and then not pay them the full amount and underpay them. And they don't have any recourse because especially now, if they call the police, they will be more likely arrested than you who violated them. So there are people in the United States who take advantage of a neo-colonial situation because these individuals are non-citizens. They are truly refugees. And so there are people all over, even black people who are subjects of the U.S. empire and oppressed in this nation, who take advantage of other people whom they are higher are on the overall hierarchy. And that is a colonial situation. And so imagine doing something like that. And I know some of y'all have probably done it. I've never done that shit. I've never done that shit. I'd rather just get some homies and do the work myself than exploit their labor. And I know Some people are way, well, they at least they get something. They get, because they could starve and all that shit. Yeah, it's a fucking conundrum. But imagine doing that to a whole country. Imagine a whole country is the Home Depot parking lot where everything there is cheaper and nobody's in a position to complain about it because the overall system and society is corrupt. So I'm all for Pan-Africanism. I'm all for repatriation. I'm all for Africans of the diaspora reconnecting with the Africans of the continent. But most of these people that engage in these reconnections and go on social media and wearing African garbs and saying the 3 or 4 African or Yoruba or Swahili terms they know, they are also engaged in neo-colonial practices. They're not there to say, hey, where is the anti-colonial revolutionary forces in this country? How do I come here to make a contribution to the struggle? How do I come here in Ghana and join with my brothers and sisters to fight the neo-colonial oppression? Where can I contribute? I am here as a servant. I have these particular skills. I have these particular resources, and I want to make them available to the people here struggling on the ground against the oppressive forces that oppress me in America and oppress you to an even higher degree here. What do I do? Tell me how. People literally go there. I see people like, yeah, I'm in Africa, as if that accomplished anything, as if there is not suffering and exploitation and slavery on the African continent. They somehow figured some shit out the rest of us haven't. Or they're freer than us because they on the motherland. Most of the Africans going home are going there for the same reason the white folks, to take advantage and exploit. The last thing Ghana needs is an Umar, because there are so many fucking scam hustlers and shysters already there, homegrown. A bunch of reactionary right-wing people posing as nationalists when all they have are Western chauvinistic views wrapped up in black militant rhetoric. Last thing Ghana needs is an Umar. They grow their own Umars on. They got homegrown Umars. But I digress. Don't go over there thinking, because there's white people over there getting dual citizenships. There's Indian entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs going to Ghana to get dual citizenship. And I looked up the nations, because some nations require descendancy or ancestry to get, like Ireland. Ireland is like anybody with Irish roots. You couldn't go to Ireland and get dual citizenship, but an Irishman could go to Ghana and get it. And it was $200 the last time I looked at this. That's wild. It's gone up. Everything going up. And if you look at the dual citizenship, let me just show y'all that one more time. If you look at this dual citizenship, the requirements, it doesn't say to be of African descent. It does not say of African descent, melanated, descendant of a slave. And they don't say nothing about that. You just be a citizen in good standing where you from. You pay up that $250, you're good. So please stop letting these people play in your face about Africa getting dual citizenship. Don't let them play in your face with that. I think because of the long-standing Arabs, East Indians, Chinese, Americans, Latin Americans, any population, race, or nationality that has a history of colonial or neo-colonial aggression or exploitation of the African continent, anybody coming from those nations should not be eligible for dual citizenship, among other things. But at the very fucking least, that is not the case. The whole economy of India the whole economy of Uganda was ran is ran by East Indians. So when you talk about colonizers, there was a time where, y'all watch Black Panther, where well, she said my favorite colonizer. That was just a disgusting thing to say. That second Black Panther movie. The Black Panther movie, the first one was whack. The second one was much worse. And I say that as a longstanding fan and reader of the Black Panther comic book. The movies did even, because in the comic book, the Black Panther is highly hostile and distrustful of America. And the Black Panther only joined the Avengers to basically be a spy. And they kicked him out and expelled him from the Avengers because it came out that he didn't believe in the mission of the Avengers. He was there literally collecting information on the individual heroes and the things and sending the data back to Wakanda. And then it found out that the Wakandan government had special warheads and war machines just off the coast of the United States, fully surrounding, and that Wakanda had put significant resources into a first strike setup for the United States. The Black Panther was hostile and an active enemy of the United States in the comic books. In the comic books. And there are lines in the comic books like, you pretend to be our friend. You pretend like you want peace and diplomacy, but in really real, you don't like us. So the Black Panther was very, very distrustful and hostile. And he thought that the Avengers were a global threat because these white people with superpowers going all over the world and even into space to bring about quote unquote justice. And the Black Panther got expelled from the Avengers because they found out he was spying. He had all kind of surveillance and tapping into their if you know about the Avengers Jarvis system and and so the Black Panther of the movies was watered down way because it would have never been the cultural and economic boom that it was otherwise. But anyway, stop playing. Stop playing. Stop letting Umar play with you. Anyway, I digress. Where are we? Oh, so what I wanted to say about absolute power. And we all heard the quote is absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I don't know, for African people, we've been out of power so long. I don't know. I think we need to stop repeating that. Let's say, let us get some power, and let's see if we think we can do better with it. We can do power right, better than white folks, because this thing has us saying, well, people have power and they abuse us, but it's the power is the problem. Until it does get to the point where African people get quite comfortable not having power. Now, not having power is different. It's a different situation than having a position of power, of having a position of authority. So Obama was in a position of authority. The power that Obama had when he was in office did not come from him. It came from the office. And we get the two confused. Like money. We think money has inherent power. We think, well, if this person has money, then they have power, as if the money gives them the power. And I say this all the time. And Black person, try to work this into conversations as you go forward. African people, we were wealthier than the people who colonized and enslaved us. We were wealthier than the people who colonized and enslaved us. So these Black entrepreneurs who are selling us getting money and getting businesses, accumulating fiat, buying stocks or Bitcoin will somehow grant us power. If that was the case, if having riches translated to power or freedom, we would have never been enslaved, because you'll sit there and say, Africa, I hear people say, Africa's the richest continent in the world. Europe has no natural resources to speak of. Europe has no gold. Europe has no oil. But you can say that in one breath and talk about the riches of Africa, and then sit and live in a world where Africa is powerless and impoverished. But then you'll turn around and say, yo, you got to get money. If you ain't got money, you can't do nothing. Y'all explain that to me. So we don't comprehend power. We have substitutes for power. I really appreciate, when I first heard this, I just thought it was some slick talk. But this is a powerful statement about power. When Huey P. Newton said that power is the ability to define reality and have it act in a desired manner, if you do not have the ability to define reality, it don't matter how much fucking money you have. It don't matter how many guns and weapons you have. It don't matter how many soldiers you have on the front line ready to lay down their lives. None of that fucking matters. If you're still operating in a reality as defined by your oppressors, you could have all of that and then some. And you will still lose. Your colonizer can pack everything up, pack up his weapons, take all his troops, take all the bureaucrats, take all the colonial forces, even take the missionaries there, and pack up the missionaries and go back to Europe. But because you didn't exercise real power, you took political power. You have now a black prime minister. You now have a black business and black-owned banks. I know brothers and sisters from the continent that says, I never saw a black teacher till I came to the United States. I mean, I never saw a white teacher. I never saw a white teacher till I came to the United States. Everybody was black. And with all that blackness, white people still dominate and rule. There are bigger churches in Africa now. There are bigger Christian churches in Africa now than there were when the white missionaries were there. When the white missionaries left, we became more Christian. And we impose Christianity on ourselves and each other more intensely than the missionaries do. In fact, Africa is more in the only place. The Catholic Church is all over the Western world. Christianity is shrinking in influence. I've been to Europe. Hell, you go to the north side of Chicago with a bunch of Polish, Eastern Orthodox, and Catholics all over this city. And you go to their big, gigantic cathedrals, and they're more like museums. They're more like, there's this one Catholic church downtown. It's between I don't know, what street is that? Canal Street. You head up Roosevelt. It's a one-way. You can't go. You have to be going south. When we're heading south on Canal, there's this beautiful, because I like architecture. I like old world architecture. Sue me. I wish I did crack a shit, but I like it. And you go by there on a Sunday afternoon, and it's like a dozen elderly people coming out of there. A dozen elderly people. There's no traffic. There's not a lot of cars. And the Catholic priest is standing out there having mild conversation. And I'm like, man, this church is so fucking empty. It's so huge. And there's not one full pew. And there's like people dispersed all throughout. The church is so empty. The white people who gave us Christianity. Yes, y'all, you didn't get your goddamn Christianity from Ethiopia. Stop running to Ethiopia every time somebody calls your Christianity white. Your Christianity is not Eastern Ethiopian Orthodox. Your Christianity is white, Protestant. Stop playing. Lying on Ethiopia's name. But then there's a church 4 blocks from here. Primarily Nigerians. And it's thousands. And it's a little bitty ass church. It's like 1/10 the size of that cathedral. One floor. That cathedral on Canal has catacombs. And they pack in there so tight. And they're all up and down. And when church lets out, I'm like, on Sundays, I don't even go up the block. I go all the way down to Washington Park and turn and go over to King. If I want to head downtown on a Sunday. Because that, for blocks around, it's ruined. I got to go all the way to King Drive to get downtown. So, and those are black people. And then black people could do anything. Nobody would mess with them. That could be in a con. They could hold a con rituals. They could create a shrine to Obatala. They could go there and praise and worship their ancestors. Nobody would bother them. How do I know? Because I've been there. I've been to the rituals. I've been to the shrines. From Harlem to Brooklyn. And they weren't kicking in the doors of the shrine while leaving the black Christians alone. They don't really care. They're not threatened. You got a bunch of Africans coming together. No white person in sight. Now, this neighborhood is gentrifying, but this neighborhood is about 20 to 25 years behind Brooklyn. This neighborhood, in terms of gentrification, is where Brooklyn was 20 years ago, because I lived in Brooklyn then. So it's gentrification. So if you don't define reality, then you don't have power. Simply accruing status, title, authority, resources, riches, stocks, bonds, properties, according to if you are securing wealth that is defined by your oppressors, if you get everything you set out to do, Floyd Mayweather, you will still be nothing more than a minstrel and a source of amusement. You will not be a threat with all your billions of dollars. You can arm yourself. Huey P. Newton Gun Club, RBG Gun Club. You can arm yourself, and Black Rambo. You can have all the biggest guns in the world. But if you don't engage with those weapons from a reality as you define it, every gun, and there's so many, like, I go look at it, because, I've been kicking around the thought of getting a concealed license. I've been a gun owner since I was 14. I've had guns since I was old enough to own guns. And it was some peer pressure shit. I remember my homie, he had a gun, and we went to Swole Park, and we were shooting things, beer cans off of logs and shit, and jugs. And we were shooting that gun, and it felt great. It felt, I'm a teenage boy who plays video games too much. And now I'm a middle-aged man who plays video games too much. So that part hasn't changed. So, of course, I'm fascinated with guns. And he had a .357 Magnum, like a 4-inch barrel. That thing was a monster. And we sold it to buy candy and play video games. I might be telling too much. But all I'm saying is I've been around and had guns since I was 14 years old. And when I first moved to New York, like, the Supreme Court had not reinforced and validated the Second Amendment, which I think the Second Amendment is stupid. And I'm pro-gun control, strict, comprehensive, universal gun control. Let me put that out there. But anyway, I was entertaining the thought of concealed carry, because it's here in the city, and it wasn't here when we moved here. In fact, there was this black activist. He now lives in Ghana, but he had gotten pulled over, and the guy was the son of a prominent professor, and he had a gun on him, and they were trying to give this man a mandatory 5 years. And this guy was a scholar. He was an educator. He had no criminal history. Him and his wife and children were out and about, but he had a gun for his own protection, which he was the son of a very prominent black radical and another scholar. And they tried to, and so that's how it was happening here. But then since it has changed, and I start watching these videos about concealed carry, securing your concealed carry, because I have concealed carry before. I used to keep a pistol under my car seat. And just, I guess, not anymore though. But I started watching these videos online, these guys with these guns. And every single person, which kind of like I kind of lost my motivation and enthusiasm for concealed carry, because every single video where they would come up with these weird ass self defense scenarios that are like you're more likely to be attacked by a ferret on the streets than you are in these weird scenarios. So somebody comes to your house, right, and they kick in your back door and do those type of crimes. The vast amount of people that suffer assault, they're generally assaulted by a loved one, a family member, or an acquaintance. And so, it's just I'm kind of locked in my brain to kind of look up stats and look up policy and look up the related things, because even though something sounds scary, I'm at home, sleep with my family, and somebody kicks in my door. That's a relatively rare crime. You're better off, you'll be safer making sure all of the smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors are up to date in your house than you are having a gun. If somebody says, would you rather have up to date and fully functional smoke detectors or a gun, I would pick the smoke detector, because that's more likely to protect your family. And the gun in your home is more likely to harm a family member, acquaintance, or loved one than it is to you. Oh yeah, this is sorry, let me stop. Yeah, this is a Lego pyramid my wife got me. You see, it's the Nile, and it's got little reed boats, little Lego reed boats, and she got me this light system that goes with it. I don't know if I can turn it on. I don't want to take it down because it's kind of. I got another system though. Yeah, this is a Lego architecture. Can I turn this thing on? It's not working. Oh, the power ain't there, but it lights up. I'll light it up for you. But yes, this is the Lego pyramid. Can I tilt it? Look at the trees. Look at the palm tree. See? You see it's got the smaller pyramids and the gate, and the little statue, and the reed boats. Can y'all see that? Anyway, yeah. I gotta dust it. You should see it when it lights up. But I'm a big fan of architecture. Whenever I travel somewhere and it's free, I go around and look at buildings. So you ever travel with me, we ain't gonna be up in the strip club. We ain't gonna be up in the club. We ain't gonna be popping bottles with my. We're gonna be looking at the architecture. And so I showed y'all this already. I haven't even started it yet. Notre Dame, because my granddaughter is visiting with me, and I feel if I start to put this together, and she's a toddler now, and she's reaching and shit, and I don't want to have to disown her before I even get to know her very well. But yeah, that's a pyramid. Is that all I got up here? I'm gonna bring my whole collection up here. Oh, I got the city of Chicago. See that? The Chicago skyline, the little bridge works. See that? So I got Chicago. You can't get this. You ain't getting this. You had to be early. And I know I'm not supposed to brag, but I balled out on this one. All this is birthday. I get one a year. I get like one for my birthday. So I got to get a year older. I got to make it a year in this crazy city just to get me a Lego architecture set. But yeah, I'm gonna bring the other ones up. I have to rearrange this. This plant and me been fighting for months. And I got this new cactus I'm trying to grow. So these plants don't do right by me anyway. They supposed to be here like, really, I was waiting for a lily to come out of here. And it just keeps. So anyway, I'm gonna get rid of these plants and just Lego that whole shit. Yes, they are. That's why you save up. That's why you save and pray. That's why you send out energy. But anyway, let me say this. I was watching those concealed carry videos, and all these brothers with guns, and they would talk about, what gun to get, what ammunition to use, how to store your gun, how to conceal it, where to keep guns in your house, what guns are best for what scenario, whether you're fighting one enemy coming at you or a multitude of enemies, how to post up. They got all this information about the gun. But then every single one of them, you want some plants? I got you, dog. I got you. I got some pots too. Me and my wife went plant crazy during quarantine. So I got you. Some hanging plants and plant hangers. I'll come and hang it from your ceiling. You just got to take care of it. If you want a plant, Q, holler at your boy. I got you. Where was it? Oh, but when you see it, you go look at these guys. You reach out and ask them. They love guns. If you reach out to a guy and say, hey, I want to do some gun talk. I'm telling you, these gun dudes are weird. I'm telling you, you got a gun nut dude, I mean, ladies, you can send him like some pictures, some salacious pictures, and send him pictures of guns. I bet you he responds to the gun pictures quicker than he responds to the scandalous pictures. These dudes are weird. But anyway, this is what they all say. When you encounter the police or any form of authority, you get butt naked. This is one video I watched, and he talks about if you have concealed carry and you are pulled over by police, he was like, first thing you do is keep both your hands and you turn on the dome light if it's dark and you let the cop know immediately I have a weapon and you let him know I'm no threat. And it's just, they'll be online talking about, yeah, somebody come to my door, they're going to have to climb over the bodies of their friends if a group of men come to my house and I'm ready, I'm strapped, woo, woo, woo. I wish somebody would try me. I pull up at the gas station and when Kia boys, carjackers come for my ride, man, I wish they would, man. And I go to this and that, and I ain't anybody, but here come a bloated police officer to violate your civil and human rights. Officer, I just want you to know that I am armed and I mean you no harm. And I'm like, man, this gun shit is weird. It seems like the whole black gun culture is about protecting your little material goods from other desperate black people. That's what it's all about. And that's why Zimmerman is the safe, walking around here safe as hell. Zimmerman is good in the hood. You got white boys all over the internet, Nazi saluting. And the last thing, ain't one racist in this country go to bed at night worried about a black man's gun. Now, it's black people, black women, black children, and other black men that go to bed and wake up and step out of their front door, and the main threat in their forehead, in their cortex, is I hope I don't run into some black dude, belligerent black dude with a gun. So the guns in our community, we got more guns. Not only do we have more guns than we had at the height of Jim Crow, we got more experienced and well-trained people on how to use them, and we got more rights than we ever had. And that is because we have not defined reality. Power is defining reality and then working towards imposing that reality. Power is not comprehending or understanding your oppressor's reality and achieving within that. And generally, you can either be a victim of racism and an asset to your oppressor. So most of these achieving black people that we define as having power, Jay-Z, Dave Chappelle, Barack Obama, the myriad of black entrepreneurs and black CEOs, Pinky, Killer Mike, and your Greenwood Bank, most of the black people we define as having power are assets and allies of our oppressors. And they will tell us to conduct ourselves in such a way that does not threaten their personal income, even if it means failing or refusing to act on our collective dignity. And what's so jacked up about this is that white people have defined reality in such a warped and backwards way. Everything white people believe is a lie, even good white folks. And what's crazy is we are debating with white people about the proper or more accurate lie to tell. Everything, even good white, and I've talked to some, man, I've met some good white people. So I know a lot of white radicals. I know white anarchists. I know white socialists. I know white animal activists. I know radical white psychologists. I know revolutionary or communist or socialist white economists. I know some white people that are way out there. And when I get an opportunity to just talk informally to them, I find out that they are as big a victim of the white delusions as the racist and redneck and uneducated, unwashed white masses. They have illusions about everything. And the reason is that the reality that white people defined is not just unjust, it's unsustainable and impractical. This whole DEI discussion is absolute insanity. Only on an insane world where white people have defined reality can we be having a debate with white people about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the fact that we would even debate with them, that's like debating and having an argument with R. Kelly about child protection. That's like trying to debate Dr. Umar about proper budgeting and management for private schools. White people have no right to have a discussion because white people defining reality have defined reality as diversity, equity, and inclusion is black people getting unfair advantage, unworthy, unskilled black people being granted unjust opportunities that we have not deserved strictly based on the color of our skin. And they have promoted this idea, and there are even black people out here who's like, I don't care nothing about DEI. And there are white people walking around, legs unwashed, chicken unseasoned, Nutella all up in the cabinets or the cupboards, raisins all through their casserole, who are in their heads thinking there are black people out here getting things we don't deserve. That being black and having black skin is an asset and an advantage to us. And not only are they thinking this madness, we are out here arguing and trying to get them to understand it. White people are the primary recipients of unjust, unworthy, unearned advantages for hundreds of years. Everything they have, everything they cherish, and not just the physical thing, not just the wealth and the bombs and the land, but the ideas of justice, the ideas of democracy and freedom. Everything they have is a goddamn lie, and they have not earned it. And everything they claim to cherish that is good, they have corrupted and distorted it. They got black people out here mad at science. I don't care nothing about no science, because they have so distorted all things that could be seen as good. And they will create robots that can do jobs that free humans from toil and danger. And instead of humanity saying, oh, I can frolic in the lilies, I can go to the beach, I can sit up like Bezos and Trump and do nothing and just have income, because there are now robots and artificial intelligence. They have to, my job's gonna be gone, I'm a starve. Things that you would think, you look at Star Trek and celebrate. You look at Star Trek and Star Wars and be like, wow, that's space age. But you look in the real world, it makes people despair. Shit is wild. And the fact, and for white people to do it, hey, like, it's like I say, white folks doing white folk shit. White folks are doing white folk shit. And so DEI means delusional. Their democracy is a lie. Their founding fathers were not great men. If every single founding father would be a multiple felony sex offender, if George Washington was here today, he'd be a registered sex offender. He'd be standing there in front of, sitting at an island at a kitchen, talking to Chris Hansen. Every single one of their founding fathers, old freaky ass what's his name? Benjamin Franklin. Oh, nasty ass, predatory Thomas Jefferson. And every white boy, every white little white girl, little white boy walking around thinking these are our founding fathers. And they believe they came from Knights of the Round Table. And historians are like, hey, knights were petty thugs. They were horrendous, the worst people in society. So everything, democracy. And these white folks sat down and said, white men who own land get to vote. We created the greatest democracy in the world. That's a big ass lie. And they have to stand on that lie. They convinced themselves the Confederates were fighting for states' rights and sovereignty. They were not fighting for slavery. They convinced themselves that they have given black people too much. They've given us too much freedom. They've given us too much opportunity. They've given us too many jobs. They've given us too much money. They've given us too many food stamps. They've given us too many housing vouchers. They've given so much to us, and we just squander it. And then we have Candace Owens and Thomas Sowells and all these other so-called black conservatives. And even some black liberals like Barack Obama that say we got to stop because we complain too much. Barack Obama told us to take off your house shoes and put on your work boots. It's a big lie. And I've never met a person that says, I love me some lies. I love lies. I love me some lies. Everybody claims to hate lies, but everybody lives lies. These white people are saying, oh, these liberals, these woke people want to groom our children. And then they go elect a man who was found guilty, who was found liable for the sexual assault of a woman. A man who has said on multiple public interviews that he wanted to have intercourse with his daughter. That if he wasn't his daughter's father, he'd be going to town on her at every opportunity. And there are black people, mainly black men, who believe that Trump does want to protect us. Trump does want to protect us from predators. When Trump is on record saying him and what's that guy's name? You can buy this for $9.50. You can't copy it. It has a watermark. But you can just get this one for free without the watermark. That was the whole photo shoot. Freaky ass cracker, he's a 6'9" god. Freaky ass cracker, you a 6'9" guy. Hey. Yeah, Epstein. Trump is on record saying him and Epstein are cool as hell. And he said Epstein's like him young. He said, I like him young. And Epstein likes him younger. And these same people walk the streets saying, we're here to protect children. We will not let the woke mob call our small children transgender and hack off their breasts, as if small children have breasts that could be hacked off. They ran on a lie talking about children who identify as furries or children who identify as cats get litter boxes. Bold-faced lies. And there are black people that believe this shit. The bugger has no shame. The bugger has no shame. And they sent him back to office. But here's the thing about that. White lies destroy white people. Black people, our position is fixed. Their agenda for us has never changed. Black people were brought to this country for the enrichment, comfort, entertainment, and servitude to the white masses. That has never changed. They might have reformed it. They have to adjust and tweak that. But our purpose for being here, this is white folks' business. This is the white folks who we stole this land. And they'd say, we didn't steal anything. The people who invaded and stole the land, the natives are still here on the land. And the natives are still under a campaign of genocide and exploitation. The Native Americans, the people who have lived here since recorded history, the mound builders, the Iroquois Confederacy. These native people are still here today. The United States still has active treaties and agreement with these people on their territories. They are still here. In the United States, the Native American people have the highest rates of poverty, the highest rates of chronic disease, the highest rates of incarceration per capita, the lowest life expectancy. There is a genocide going on here. I say it all the time. The last time I went to a rally for the Congo and to protest the genocide in the Congo and Palestine, and people, white folks, came from all over the country. And I'm like, white people had to literally fly over genocides in America to protest the genocide in Africa and Palestine. And they literally sat there, sipping the tea, sitting there eating that lame ass airport. I don't know how. I mean, let me tell you, the airlines are really bad when it comes to vegan meals. And they love telling you, oh, we have vegan meals. They're so excited to tell you they have vegetarian or vegan options. And it's always the wackest shit. And so you sitting there eating your vegetarian, vegan options, because if you're flying from the West Coast to Chicago to protest genocide, I'm pretty sure you're ordering a vegetarian meal. And you're sitting there eating that lame ass meal. And you're flying over one genocide that you're ignoring to protest a genocide that's hot in the streets, that's popular and trending now. And these are the good white people. These are our allies. Lies, delusions. White people are extremely delusional. White people not only deny that they owe us reparations, they believe that, like I said, we owe them. We should be grateful to them. And you're going to try to reason with this psychopath, the race of psychopath. Bobby E. Wright said, in relationship to African people, whites have conducted themselves as psychopaths. And I'm going to review that next. I got a couple of books I'm going to come out within the next couple of weeks and do a review, because we really got to push this psychopathic racial personality thing. And I mean your liberal friends, the white people you play cards with, or shoot pool, or throw darts, or go axe throwing with. White people got some cool hobbies, I can't front. So they are delusional. They are also exclusionary. And when I say white people are exclusionary, they don't just exclude you from their shit. They exclude you from your shit. They will come into your land and make you, isolate you, and put you in a concentration camp in your own land. They will come to your land and put you on a reservation. They will come to your land and put you in the West Bank or Gaza Strip. They will come to your land, build a military base, or build a gated community in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, and build a gated community and kick you out your own shit. Because nobody wants, why ain't nobody went to Europe for any other reason than to get back what was taken. Ain't nobody come to America for no other reason to get back what they were taking. And they believe, and white folks have, through their delusion, have taught themselves people are coming here for our freedoms. They are coming here for our liberty. And the very white folks on TikTok talking about American freedom and liberty, if you look in their mailboxes, it'd be a dozen collection notices and a goddamn eviction note taped on their front door. And it's so weird that when white people get a little taste of hardship that they voted for, I say this all the time too, white people's wounds are self-inflicted. The poverty, drug, and all the other social ills that white people deal with are self-inflicted wounds. These are shits they voted for since they put Nixon in office and then put Reagan in office. White folks have been voting against their own class interests since black people got the right to vote. And so they're exclusionary. They cannot coexist in peace with people unless they are abusing them. I'll say that again. White people cannot coexist with other people in peace. That's the end of the sentence. White people have not demonstrated the ability to coexist in peace with other people. Now, we thought, since white people moved to neighborhoods, because you notice these places I talked about, the Native American reservations, the American ghettos, the West Bank and Gaza Strip, the gated communities on the African continent that white people set up, the military bases where the U.S. imperial forces go and set up, and they'll go to a Muslim nation and put up a pork chop restaurant right in the middle of the military base, and they treat the military base like it's sovereign American territory, violating the customs and norms of the society they're in. But one thing you always notice is they got to have the help. It was so weird that white people were like, I don't want no nigger guns. I don't want no nigger going to school. Even like Biden said, he don't want his son's school to become a jungle. I mean, I've been an atheist since I was 14 years old, but one thing that made me believe in the supernatural forces, the one thing that made me believe in a mighty force for justice coming emanating from the universe was Biden's kids. Because Biden did everything in his power to make sure his kids did not grow up around blacks. And he got, and I'm gonna be crass here because it's a nasty topic. He got kids that went out like a couple of niggas. One of your kids is as the nigga, the black stereotype. Your sons both went out like stereotypes. Because black people, we've been unhealthy in this country. Our health and life expectancy is always one son dead. One son dead from a disease, from an early death. How old was Bo? How old was he? Let me see. I don't know what it is. First child died in a car accident. Second child died of cancer, and the third child is a zombie. His current son is a goddamn drug zombie, old freaky ass cracker. He is 6'9". Guy's first son is old freaky nasty, and one of his sons got like a sex worker pregnant, and they not claiming that child. And then that son went to sleep with the widow of his dead brother. I'm like, man. And this is how you notice how white folks, when they talk about black stereotypes, they're projecting how they behave onto us. You ever notice that? But anyway, what I was saying is, during this whole segregation thing, and we singing "We Shall Overcome" and nonviolent resistance, and we misread that history and that strategy to think we were trying to get close to white folks. We were trying to get close. White people make us sit in the back of the bus. White folks won't let us go to school with them. White folks won't let us drink at a fountain. White folks won't let us stay in their hotels. White folks won't let us sit next to them at a soda fountain or soda yeah, I think they were called soda fountain. White folks was pushing us away, making us live off in the bad areas. We want to be able to, they won't let us buy houses in their developments. White folks never had a problem being close to us. All when them same white people that were out there saying, I don't want my son to go to school with a black, they were suckled at a black woman's breast. White people who claim they can't be anywhere near us had black wet nurses suckling, drinking the milk. Those racist white people were suckled at the breast of a black woman. They had black people in their kitchen, cooking their food, mending their underwear. They had black men doing everything. They had black men serving the food, playing the fiddle. White people had no issue with being all up against us. And when we would run away from them, they'd chase us down. How can you claim you don't want to be around nobody when you running through a fucking swamp in the middle in the pitch dark with bloodhounds chasing somebody when then you claim, get away from me? And so the reality is white people only have an issue being around empowered people. If you are non-white and you conduct yourself with dignity and you call them on their bullshit, that's when you got to get away. Snoop Dogg can come. Floyd Mayweather can be all up. And Elon Musk can kick it and hang out with Dave Chappelle. A lot of your affluent white friends, a lot of the white people you're around, a lot of you call you N-word behind your back. But if they find out they can call you an N-word and a monkey and a burrhead to your face and they can rub your head for duck or goose you, you'll get closer. So it's not about proximity, it's about power. If they can exercise and abuse and use their power over you, you can get in there. And a lot of black people understand that. A lot of black people understand that. Even Obama's like, I'm safe, boss. They were like, you get to be president. When you ever seen a president do some shit like this? When you ever seen a president playing and horse playing? When he was in office, he's a good one. and put you in a headlock, boy, and post it all over the world. Show me a picture of Nixon. Show me another picture. And black people, no, just forget a president. Show me a black man. Show me a black mechanic you can play like that. Not even if my sons came and play, I don't play like that. I'm a black man. My sons, my nephews come and do this shit. We fighting for real. Who want to do that? Maybe if my wife's feeling a little ditty, we can play. But maybe. But beyond that, what kind of man? But if they know you can go as far in this world as you want. And a lot of these black elites don't want to tell us the level of indignities they suffer. Because they want to come back to Oz. Hey, I just keep it real. But you're right. I'm just trying to drive home. Ain't no average. Go find a black dude in your life that you cool with, that you can just put your hands around their neck playing. Find me an adult black man that play like that. Find one. You did this to a former president. Where the hell was Secret Service? Obama has Secret Service protection for the rest of his life. And even if you play like that, how did it get? And this thing was everywhere. On magazines, in The Guardian, in the Times of New York. Okay, let me rephrase that. Show me a black man that's worthy of anybody, of black people's respect that you can. We just don't play like that. Like I said, unless it's our intimate other. But beyond that, if we ain't getting freaky, I don't even like doing it to myself. I'm mad at myself just demonstrating that shit. Okay, where was I? Oh. So the exclusion that white people impose on other races is not based on they're so white and pure and they can't have us there, because whenever they build these elite exclusive places, they like to fill them with non-whites to do their bidding, to satisfy their needs, and not just their physical needs, but their mental, sick, psychological needs. So delusions and exclusionary. And finally, they're insecure as fuck. White people need constant validation. White men have been the hero of the world for the first 100 years of cinema. White men for comics. When I read comics, all the heroes were white. I had He-Man. I used to love Thundar the Barbarian. You could go to an alien world 50 million galaxies away from Earth, and it's still a white man there being the hero and the champion. I used to love Flash Gordon and him beating the shit out of the Asian Ming the Merciless. I was really into comics and fashion and action figures. And then you have all these G.I. Joes, and all the ethnic G.I. Joes had the Indian spirit. This dude's on a modern battlefield with tanks and machine guns, and he had an eagle. He had a damn eagle. That shit was crazy. And I wanted this G.I. Joe. I wanted this action figure so bad. But white folks is like, if we're going to have some ethnics around, if we're going to have some ethnics sullying up our action figure collection, that's insecurity. You couldn't just have a Native American soldiers. Native Americans been helping white folks win their war since the white men came here and stole their land. Native Americans helped white folks win the war against other native nations. They had white folks, Tarzan. They helped white folks win World War I. They were doing code talkers. White folks been helping. So you could create an Indian soldier without giving him a goddamn eagle and have him wear feathers. Why couldn't? And you see he has the Native American Apache or warrior apron on. So even when they gave us soldiers, and every black hero has to be a muscle macho man, just can't be a regular dude, can't be an intelligence operative. Remember Roadblock? A big dumb jock. And these are for the ethnic characters. This dude got a gun that he shouldn't even be able to carry. And I wanted me a Roadblock. And Roadblock would use weapons that were supposed to be mounted on tanks and be mounted on you're not supposed to be carrying that shit. He gonna get prostate cancer. carrying this giant ass, and you know they're not gonna pay for it. They have these big penis guns. White folks, man, y'all need to read Frances Cress Welsing. I got a lot of criticisms of her, but when she's right, she's right. He always got the big guns. You know, I get Duke or somebody, he got a cool ass pistol and I can pose him in all kind of ways. But I got the fucking black G.I. Joe and I got, you know, he leaning on it. He can't even stand up. So all I'm saying is white men have been the main heroes in everything. The main heroes. And they might throw in Tomb Raider or White Girl from time to time. But then they was like, hey, let's sprinkle in some Asian and black heroes. And white boys lost their shit. White boys are like, I'm joining the Nazi party tomorrow. I went to see Star Wars and I saw a black with a lightsaber. You can be Lando Calrissian up in the goddamn Cloud City, far and away from the action, a sniveling little, but no, you don't get no lightsaber. And white boys can't stand it. They're losing their shit. I don't know if you dwell in like the gaming, comic, action, adventure, fantasy world. They have lost their shit. Woke. You go anti-woke. White boys have made multi-millionaires out of dudes who just come on the internet and say, this is woke. Go work and work. They are insecure as fuck. Black people have been under oppression since the founding, since the 1500s, since before, over a century before the United States was ratified and defined as a country. We were here getting our asses kicked for nothing. And we don't go Nazi. White folks show up and there are no eggs at the store and they start Nazi. They start fucking going Nazi over nothing. A white boy get cut off in traffic and ready to be a Nazi. And he didn't even see who cut him off. He just said, look, it had rims. It must have been a black guy. Hate blacks. They are extremely pathologically insecure. And so there are white people who Trump is going to hurt. There are white people in this country who Trump is going to fuck. He's already fucked. He fucked his first 4 terms. White people have not recovered from white people who got health insurance from Obama and got some economic recovery from Biden. And in between that, the 2 Trumps, they suffered. But here's the thing with a white person. A white person can be living in a trailer without plumbing or electricity. His teeth can rot out of his mouth. And the only thing he owns of value is a few guns and a truck. He has no access to education. He has no future prospects. But if that white boy can turn on his TV and see black people being brutalized and demonized, and see Latin people who are his brothers, most of these Latin people are white. You don't believe me? Go to Latin America and call them brown. These are conquistadors, other white people, seeing people who come from Latin American countries being rounded up. A white man can suffer any indignity as long as he thinks, don't even have to be true, that non-white people are suffering more. A white man will surrender his social safety net. White people will give up their social security. They will give up their access to insurance. They will give up. I mean, Biden gave them fucking $15 limit on insulin. There's a white diabetic MAGA Republican right now who, once he finishes with his last bit, and Trump's already working on a new plague. Go look at the CDC. Is not allowed to release any reports. Trump is already working on another plague. Every report coming out of the CDC has to be approved by a Trump appointee. So now public health has been politicized, but y'all believe, I don't care nothing about no CDC. Because a lot of these agencies work in the background and y'all think y'all don't need it. You think you like, because you fall for a lot of the propaganda that the white people do. So the CDC, right, the FDA, they already, this bird flu, shit is real. The next plague is on. It's like y'all need to, do whatever preparations, whether that's, but I digress. White people are extremely insecure and they get vitality. They get hope for the future through cruelty and suffering of non-whites. They get ecstasy from other people's suffering. So you can tell them, well, these brown people getting and put those kids in cages, build a wall. They've got these contraptions on the Rio Grande. If someone tries to swim across, there's these buoys with saws, and Trump's going to impoverished countries. And Trump's and telling them we're going to dump all these refugees, and they don't have the resources. Let me tell you something. This country is not overrun by immigrants. That is a falsehood. Let me tell you something. An immigrant has never taken your job. An immigrant cannot take anybody's job. Let me tell you something. Nobody takes a job. You, as an American citizen, fully skilled, can't take a job. I've had employers, when I was a radiographer, calling me, trying to woo me away from one facility to the next. And even in that situation, I can't take a job. A job cannot be taken. And like I said all the time, these people only talk about taking a job. Like I said, if you go up to somebody and say, hey, how you doing? I took a job. They'll be like, what are you talking about? Jobs are given by the capitalist or their agents. The managers, the hirers, the human resources grant you a job, and they can take it away from you. You don't take a job, and you can be working a job for 30 years. That job does not belong to you. When you walk away from that job, the job remains and you go. You belong to the job. The job don't belong to you. The job was granted to you and given to you temporarily. You weirdos, freak skeezers and weirdos. So all that to say, all these delusions, all these lies, all this insecurity, white people were like, fuck the democracy. And the only reason white people are voting away their own democracy is because the white elites have told them a lie and saying, hey, it's not the capitalist and it's not capitalism. It's not the elites. All of your suffering, the chronic diseases and ailments that you have from the pollutants and toxins in your environment, that's not your problem. The economic insecurity you're experiencing because the banking and investment system has been deregulated to the point where all of the wealth and reoriented, where all of the wealth is being concentrated at the top, and the protections that you have as far as jobs, unemployment, and income protections, pensions are gone. Labor and work stability has been slowly eroded by the politicians you voted for, the right-wing conservative, and on both ends. Clinton was a conservative. And they tell you NAFTA and GATT. NAFTA came out of the same place. NAFTA, that white folks hate, GATT came from the exact same place as Project 2025. The exact same think tanks with the exact same white folks get behind. And you know, if George Soros gave Kamala Harris $250 million and she became president, these white folks would be back in the White House, back in the Capitol, smearing feces. And why don't y'all talk about white people on Jan 6 smearing feces? Why don't y'all talk about that? Why do y'all, if black people, if it was a Black Lives Matter rally and black people went to a Confederate statue and smeared their feces on it, we'd hear about it every day. But white people ran up in the State House in the Capitol building on Jan 6, and they had to bring in hazardous materials groups because they had put so much of their own feces and urine, and it wasn't just on the floor. It wasn't. They had smeared it on the desk of the Democratic Congress people and senators. They smeared it on the walls and the old paintings. And y'all don't talk about it. I feel like I'm the only person that mentions it. And then people, when I say it, some people have to pull out their phone and run to Google to verify it. And like I said, you go to one black protest, because we're going to have a lot of protests coming up, and find one turd at a Black Lives Matter rally, and it would be on Fox News every damn day. And we have let this slide for 5 years now. But anyway, time's up, and then I don't have time for Q&A. I'll make time for Q&A. Please like, share, subscribe. I have some things, man. We got a lot of work to do. Thank you, Roman. Your name is Roman, and you got a comedic image. But I suppose get in where you fit in. Thank you, Roman. Let me not criticize. Brothers showing support and love. And you can too. and I'll try to refrain from criticizing you. You can become a Patreon, Cash App, Venmo. You help a brother out. Thank you. Sustain. Look for that psychopathic, because I mean the psychopathic way, it's not even a book, it's a pamphlet really. And I've read it several times. So I'm gonna do a book review on that because these folks, white folks, are a race of psychopaths. They're engaged in collective insanity, and they have no capacity for collective shame. That if I could impose, if I met a wizard or a genie, or if I could pray to a God that actually existed, I would say, what do you want to give white folks? And I wouldn't be cruel. I wouldn't say give them boils, give them all time. I would say I want to give white people in America the capacity for collective shame. I want to give white people in the United States the capacity for collective shame. And white people don't even know what it is. Like, white people don't sit on a couch at home with their family and hear a report about a cannibal child molester. And they don't sit there and be like, oh, I hope he's not a white guy. I hope he's not a white guy. Please don't let it be a white guy. But black people will hear something like 2 men were stabbed together in a fight over fried chicken. And black people are like, oh, don't let it be a black person. Because if a black person conducts themselves in a way, in a manner that is not apropos for societal standards and sentiments, black people, we feel collective shame and embarrassment. But we also are able to, and that's bad for us. We shouldn't, but we do. And in a way, I think I'm glad we had that capacity, even though it's abused and misused. And we also have the capacity for collective joy. We see y'all weird, not me, but y'all see Kendrick Lamar perform at the Super Bowl, and y'all be like, yeah, for the culture and all that bullshit. So, but I have not seen white people demonstrate the capacity for collective shame. From chattel slavery to inventing nuclear bombs, to using nuclear bombs, to electing Trump and supporting Trump as a majority. They have no capacity for shame. You know, if Obama conducted himself, people used to always say, if Obama did what Trump did, he'd be in jail. Not only would he be in jail, black people would stop supporting him. If he went on, if there was a recording that popped up and he said, what's Obama's daughter's name? Shasha? If he was like, man, if Shasha wasn't my daughter, boy, I'd be breaking that off. If there was a recording of that emerged, we would be like, oh shit, Obama's bringing us down. But white dudes, they can have animal brothels and all that shit, and they don't have the bugger. Professor Mackey, at his lectures, I went to several of his lectures. Rest in peace, one of our greatest ancestors. Professor William Mackey said that his grandmother would always say, she was Gullah Geechee. So she would say in her Gullah Geechee accent, the bugger got no shame. Whenever she hear about white folks in doing what they do, whether it's invading Grenada or inventing some other weird ass weapons, sound weapons, radiate weapons, melting the polar ice, she would always say the bugger got no shame. And one of the things I think that they're lacking, that they have not really exhibited the capacity for, and I think if they had the capacity to feel shame, maybe that would help cultivate empathy and help cultivate other. And I'm not saying, I could be wrong, and I could have wasted my wish, but I've seen that in other groups of people. I've seen Asian people, brothers and sisters from the continent, always like, you better not make us look bad. They always telling their offspring and kinfolk, don't make us look, don't bring us down. I've never interacted or seen a white person in a public eye saying this is really bad for white folks. The only thing they think is bad for them is they lose a conflict. Like, okay, we slaughtered and committed genocidal conflict and we contaminated the land of Vietnam and we lost. This is bad for us. And what's bad for them is that they had to retreat. They never say, well, look at the horrendous things we did. There's kids right now born, babies born without craniums. You ever seen a baby born without a cranium, no cranial formation, and the brain is mush in skin because of the Agent Orange and other toxic chemicals they dropped over there? And then they go make movies. And the movies are sympathetic to the murderous soldiers, not the freedom fighters and resistance. They're making movies about snipers who are committing war crimes in Iraq and people are cheering them on. They just came up with a series of Black Hawk Down, imperialists. And then at the one time they made movies based on history showing the colonizers as wicked and evil, and then they'll make a movie about the Roman Empire or a movie about fascists in space. And a white man can go and watch Star Wars and root for Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and boo the Emperor and say boo for Darth Vader, and then take his weird ass to the voting booth and vote for Donald Trump or vote for Empire in general and not see any. They are the DEI. They are the DEI, not us. White folks benefit from DEI, not us. And stop attacking DEI. Say DEI stands for delusional, exclusionary, and insecure. Y'all the DEI motherfuckers, not us. And I guess that's it. And thank you for your contributions. Thank you for helping to support African World Order and the BroDiallo broadcast and the 2 channels. It is appreciated and needed equally, if not more appreciated. No, it's more needed than appreciated, but I appreciate it as much as possible. I don't know how to quantify that, so I'll say equally. And until next time, thank you for tuning in. I'll see y'all Friday with on African World Order with another episode of Class Time.